They won't say it, not out loud, but they feel it. The quiet tension when you enter the room, the sideways glances, the forced smiles that last a second too long. This isn't paranoia. This is the unconscious truth people carry. And Carl Jung knew it well. He once wrote, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." But what happens when you are the irritation? When your existence reflects something people don't want to confront? See, people don't just hate what's evil, they hate what's true. They hate what threatens their carefully constructed illusions. You may think they dislike you for being different, too intense, too quiet, too ambitious, too deep. But that's not it. They hate the mirror you hold up because you remind them of what they ran from. You are the echo of their unlived life, the voice they silenced, the potential they abandoned. And so their hatred brews, not because you are wrong, but because you are right in a way that hurts. We all carry shadows, Jung said. And when someone dares to live in alignment with theirs, when someone walks with authenticity and doesn't ask for permission, it threatens those still hiding in the dark. They won't say it, but you can feel it. You're more hated than you think. But the real question isn't why they hate you. It's, will you still dare to be real, even when it costs you their comfort? Hatred is rarely loud. It's quiet, polite, civilized. It wears a smile. It claps for your success. It says congrats through clenched teeth. But beneath the surface, it simmers. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the part of ourselves we refuse to see. The anger, the jealousy, the failure, the potential we abandoned and now despise in others. When you walk into a room with light in your eyes, not arrogance, but presence, you activate something in them. A discomfort, an internal earthquake, because you unknowingly represent everything they've repressed. You're not just a person to them, you are a symbol, a reflection, a reminder. You chased what they were too afraid to pursue. You said the truth they still bury. You carry wounds they never had the courage to name. And so, in their subconscious, you become the enemy. But here's the irony. The hatred directed at you has little to do with you. You're just the trigger, not the cause. And yet you'll feel it. People distancing, conversations shifting, energy turning cold for reasons you'll never understand. You'll start to question yourself. Did I say too much? Am I too much? Should I dim my light to fit in their comfort zone? But Jung warned, to confront the shadow is to walk the most dangerous path of all, the one that leads to wholeness. And not everyone wants to be whole. Not everyone wants to heal. Some prefer to hate the ones who try. So, when you feel the chill of unspoken resentment, remember this: you're not the villain in their story. You're the mirror they keep trying to shatter. There is something dangerous about a person who refuses to wear a mask. Not because they are harmful, but because they are free. And freedom makes people uncomfortable. Carl Jung knew that to be truly yourself, you must first peel away every false identity you inherited. The people pleaser, the performer, the obedient version of you that made others feel safe. But when you do that, when you show up unfiltered, unapologetic and raw, you shatter the script others are still trying to follow. They don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because you left the cage they're still living in. You're proof it's possible. You're living evidence that the prison was never locked, that the bars were fear, not steel. And that terrifies them. Because if you can speak with honesty, if you can walk away from toxic places, if you can live by your own truth, then they are forced to confront the question they've avoided. Why haven't I? So instead of asking it, they judge you. They mock, they gossip, they minimize your growth so they don't have to face their own stagnation. It's not just that they dislike your choices, it's that your freedom highlights their chains, and many would rather stay bound than admit they've betrayed themselves. So, when your authenticity draws their resentment, understand this: it's not a flaw in you, it's a wound in them, one they're not ready to face. You may not recognize the person they see when they look at you, because it's not you. It's who they need you to be in order to avoid themselves. Carl Jung called this projection the unconscious act of placing one's own darkness onto another. And if you are even slightly self-aware, if you speak with conviction, if you live in a way that challenges the collective sleepwalk, you become the perfect canvas. Suddenly, your confidence becomes arrogance. Your silence becomes judgment. Your success becomes a threat. They begin to twist your presence into something it's not, because it's easier to make you the villain than to ask why they feel so unsettled around you. You're not the problem. You're the portal. to feelings they don't want to feel, to memories they buried, to truths they denied for years. And so they assign you roles. You're too much. You're selfish. You think you're better than us. But these aren't facts. They're defense mechanisms. They're not reacting to you. They're reacting to the parts of themselves they cannot bear to face. You walked into the room, but what they saw, what they heard, was their inner critic echoing through your words. You didn't create their pain. You just lit the match that made it visible. And for that, you'll be punished. But not by truth, by fear. And it will never be your job to carry what others refuse to heal. There's a strange kind of loneliness that comes with seeing clearly. You notice things others don't. A shift in tone, a flicker in someone's eyes, a sentence that doesn't match the energy behind it. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." But what he didn't say is how lonely it feels to be conscious when others are still asleep. You begin to realize that not everyone wants to wake up. They don't want to talk about the truth. They don't want to question the system. They don't want to look at their pain. And when you do, when you bring awareness into places they've sealed shut, you become a threat to their comfort. It's not that they hate you. They hate the part of themselves you awaken. You walk into a room and feel everything. The unspoken grief, the power games, the emotional avoidance. You speak with clarity and it unsettles them, because they've built their lives around avoiding the very things you name out loud. And so you become too intense, too sensitive, too deep. But what they really mean is, you see what we don't want to see. They will mock your intuition, resent your insight, dismiss your voice. Not because it's wrong, but because it's real. And realness, in a world addicted to illusion, is often the most hated trait of all. But if being awake makes you the outsider, then solitude is not a punishment. It's a sanctuary. You're not supposed to grow too much, not if it means outgrowing them. They'll cheer for your healing, as long as it doesn't require them to face their wounds. They'll clap for your ambition until it rises higher than their own. They'll say they love you until the version of you they once loved no longer exists. Carl Jung taught that true individuation, the process of becoming one's full self, comes at a cost. You must leave behind who you were conditioned to be. And in doing so, you leave behind the comfort of being liked for the sake of being safe. But your evolution will trigger those who stayed stagnant, because your change forces them to confront their lack of movement. You weren't trying to abandon them. You were just answering a call they chose to ignore. You weren't trying to make them feel small. You just stopped making yourself smaller to make them feel comfortable. And suddenly, your healing becomes their evidence of what they refuse to face. Your growth becomes betrayal. Not because you hurt them, but because you reminded them of the person they promised themselves they'd become and never did. They may not say it, but you'll feel it. In the distance, the coldness, the way your joy no longer fits in their world. But hear this clearly. You did not betray them by growing. They betrayed themselves by staying behind. Peace should be beautiful, but to some, it's unbearable. There's something unsettling about a person who cannot be provoked, who doesn't take the bait, who refuses to spiral into drama even when surrounded by it. Carl Jung understood that true integration of the self creates inner stillness. But that stillness, that groundedness, is threatening to those who thrive in chaos. When someone has lived in emotional turbulence for years, your peace feels foreign. It exposes how reactive, anxious, and unhealed their inner world still is. You don't raise your voice. You don't gossip. You don't panic over things beyond your control. And instead of being inspired by that, they resent you. Because your peace reveals their noise. Your calm reveals their inner war. Your emotional self-mastery shines a spotlight on their lack of control. They may accuse you of being cold, detached, aloof. But the truth is, you just stopped being addicted to chaos. And when you refuse to join the cycle, when you walk away from conversations designed to provoke you, they lose their grip on you. Because their power only existed when you still needed validation, still needed to prove your worth, still needed to defend your boundaries instead of quietly enforcing them. Your peace breaks the game, and people who only know connection through conflict don't know how to meet you in silence. So they turn away. Or worse, they try to drag you back into the storm. But don't follow them there, because your stillness isn't weakness, it's power. And that power is often hated most by those who never found it in themselves. They will not always celebrate you. In fact, the more aligned you become, the more you will disturb those who aren't. Carl Jung warned, The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But he never said it would make you loved. You will be misunderstood, misquoted, mislabeled. You will lose people you thought would stay forever. Because the moment you stop playing a role, you stop being who they wanted and start becoming who you are. And that shift will make some people uncomfortable, not because you've done something wrong, but because you've stopped shrinking. They'll resent your boundaries. They'll mock your healing. They'll try to convince you you've changed. As if that isn't the entire point. They will project, attack, and twist your light into something dark. And it will hurt. You'll wonder if it's worth it. If authenticity is just a lonely road paved with rejection. But here's the truth. It's better to be hated for being real than loved for staying small. Because love that demands your silence isn't love. Acceptance that requires your mask isn't acceptance. And belonging that costs your soul is a prison, not a home. You were not made to be palatable. You were made to be powerful. So let them hate. Let them misunderstand. Let them leave. But never let their discomfort become the reason you betray yourself. Because in the end, you don't need everyone to understand you. You only need to be whole. If this awakens something in you, don't let it fade. Subscribe to Wisdom Seeker for more truth, more depth, and more of the voice you've been waiting to hear. You're not alone in this. Not anymore.